Hey there. This is for anyone who's on that incredibly tough journey of fighting for justice after dealing with workplace discrimination. It's a path that, honestly, demands more strength than you ever thought you had. Today, we're going to break down the emotional roller coaster of that fight, and more importantly, talk about real strategies for survival and even transformation. Let's get into it. Right off the bat, let's just be real. If you're here, it's probably because you've been through something deeply hurtful. An employer you trusted with your livelihood, with your future, they betrayed that trust. This isn't just about some policy violation. This is a personal wound. And your decision to pursue a legal claim, that is an act of incredible courage. You know, this quote from Dr. King really frames this whole experience. It's not going to be easy, and it's definitely not going to be fast. But what you're doing is rooted in this fundamental belief that things can and should be fair. Let's try to hold on to that as we move forward.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. Before you even think about lawyers or lawsuits, a serious psychological injury has already happened. This is so much more than losing a job. It's a direct hit to your competence, your dignity, and your very sense of belonging.
You might be feeling just this storm of emotions right now. Shock, rage, self-doubt, maybe a deep sadness. It is so important for you to hear this. These feelings are not a sign of weakness. They are the completely normal human response to being treated unjustly. Often, the very first thing that hits you is just pure shock. Your brain kind of short circuits, trying to process what just happened. This can't be real. And that's actually a protective mechanism. It's your mind's way of letting the trauma in slowly instead of all at once. But as that initial shock starts to wear off, anger usually rushes in to take its place. And I need you to know that your anger is 100% valid. It's a necessary, healthy response to being wronged. In fact, that anger is energy, and you can channel that energy to fuel your fight and document everything. And then there's the grief. This is a really deep sense of loss. Yeah, for the job, for sure, but it's also for the professional identity you worked so hard to build, for the trust you had in people, and for the future you thought you had mapped out. Seeing this as a form of grief is a huge step in understanding what comes next. So, here's the thing that's so tough to wrap your head around. The discrimination itself is only the first trauma. The actual legal process, the fight for justice, it adds a whole other layer of stress. It doesn't really let that wound heal. Instead, it forces you to pick at the scab over and over again by reliving what happened. Now, if you're still working there, while this is all going on, you might face retaliation. It's totally illegal, but it happens all the time. It can look like your coworkers suddenly avoiding you, like you're a ghost, or maybe you hear rumors being spread, attacks on your reputation, or all of a sudden you have performance problems that never existed before. Recognizing these tactics for what they are is the first step to fighting back. And, this retaliation isn't always just coming from one bad manager. In big companies or organizations, it can be systemic. It can be baked into the culture. Let's look at a quick case study to see exactly how this can play out. This is a pretty clear illustration of the strategy. A massive agency like the NYC Department of Education has been known to use these really coordinated tactics. Things like internal problem codes that basically act as a blacklist, making it impossible to get hired anywhere else in the system. Or they might launch a bunch of baseless investigations just to drain your time, money, and spirit, hoping you'll give up. The whole point is to wear you down until you break. So, wow, facing all of that, how on earth do you survive it? Well, it's about finding your tools, your strategies, your weapons to protect not just your legal case, but your own well-being. Okay, here is an incredibly powerful strategic move. The problem is that every single day you spend in that hostile environment, it's doing more damage. The solution? You have to create separation. Legal protections like FMLA leave, which can give you job-protected time off, or ADA accommodations, which might let you work from home, these aren't just rights on a piece of paper. They are survival tools. They stop the daily bleeding and give you the space you desperately need to heal. Remember how we talked about grief? Well, this whole ordeal really is a journey through loss, and that means going through the stages of grief. You might cycle through denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and eventually acceptance. But here's the key thing to remember. Grief isn't a straight line. It's messy. It is totally normal to bounce back and forth between these stages. Now, we need to talk about what acceptance really means here. It does not mean you're okay with what happened. It doesn't mean it was acceptable. Not at all. It's an active choice. It's choosing to accept the reality of the situation, to let go of the need for an apology you might never get, and to decide to re-engage with your own life on your own terms.
And this brings us to the final part of the journey. Surviving this isn't just about getting back to who you were before. It's about transformation. It's like the fire that was meant to destroy you can actually forge you into something stronger, wiser, and better than you were before.
So, let me just ask you this directly. Take a second and really think about it. Who are you becoming through all of this? This experience wasn't your choice, but the growth that comes out of it, that is absolutely yours to claim.
First off, you're becoming more resilient. You are surviving something you probably thought would absolutely break you. You're tapping into a well of personal strength you never even knew you had. And that resilience, that's now a permanent part of you.
You're also becoming way more discerning. This painful experience is a brutal teacher, but it gives you this hard-won wisdom. You now see the warning signs, the red flags in people and in situations that you might have missed before. Your judgment is sharper, your gut instinct is stronger. And finally, you become more authentic. I mean, when you go through a trial by fire like this, all the superficial stuff just burns away. You're stripped of all the pretense, and what's left is your true, core identity. And it's stronger and more real than it has ever been.
And I want to leave you with this final thought. The version of you that walks out of this fire is someone that the people who wronged you will never, ever get to meet. The strength you've built, the wisdom you've gained, that is all yours. That is their loss, and that is your victory.